Long in Kenya mit der Kapitel Tillim. Gefragt von die I should raise the volume. Okay, I'll raise the volume. The whole what we're passing, we should start with the Kapitel Tillim, the Rebbe's Kapitel. And in Sinn haben die drei Kinderlach dort in Erzisrael und nach Henu Beis Yisrael. Und wir sagen Rebbe's Kapitel. Halleluja, Halleluja, Rom al kol goyim vader ana shvan kvedim kader elena vekir shab vel basman moat vikim yokadun af mishel vayim yeshivim lidim lidigavim mishel kersa bayis mismocha hallelujah. We hebben zak de galen meteen het veel op te dakken. We staan met dat bushke. Shmuel, je dacht van een kesse bushke. Was?
In this show the body is discovered, no pushka.
This show the body is discovered, okay? Du bist der Pushka, okay? Das sagt Pushka schon. Sie ist ein Beis mal der Pushkes. Sie ist ein Beis mal der Pushkes.
Pushkes ist auch umgehen. Pushkes ist auch umgehen.
Okay. As we well know, the number 3 by the Rebbe is very special. As the Rebbe says in the Mishnah, Istakel b'shloisha dvorim, so the Rebbe says the first thing is Istakel b'shloisha, to look at the concept of the 3, this whole concept of 3. Without great preliminaries onto this, without great expansion on the subject of 3, but as we know, the main emphasis the Rebbe says about 3 is all that 3 represents the concept of achdus. And this is the special quality of 3, that brings about achdus when there seems to be different opinions. When we're talking about Gimel Tmuz, obviously the number 3 is quite prevalent. Chav Zayin Oder, we also know the Rebbe speaks about Chav Zayin represents 3 times 3 times 3. Can you do this sicher? And Bashgacha Pratis, as frightening as it sounds, but this time there's also an opportunity Yiddish Kinderloch that need an immediate Geula, and all of Klal Yisrael obviously needs an immediate Geula. So the idea of 3 is something that we should focus on continuously, as the Rebbe says, that 3 represents also the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, which we are all anxiously awaiting and expecting to happen any moment. So, in this idea, we should learn a Sikha, where the Rebbe speaks about this concept of 3, but in a different perspective, in a different angle. This is actually what you have in front of you is from a sefer called Hini Yomim Boim, an excellent sefer, highly recommended to get it. It's all based on Sichas Mamorim Bon Chassidus, very well done. This basically it's a gist of a Sicha of Chelik Tez Vav Vayetzim. But I took it from here, it's structured a little bit differently. So in the Sicha the Rebbe says like this. Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi yesh kesher v'yuchad l'Yaakov Avinu. Special connection to the Beis HaMikdash with Yaakov. As it says, Ma'idich Siv al Chamim Rabim el Har Hashem el Beis Elokei Yaakov. Pasuk says the nations will say, let us go up to Har Hashem el Beis Elokei Yaakov. Says the Gemara over there. Elokei Yaakov v'lo Elokei Avraham v'Yitzchak. In fact, Rashi brings it as a Chumash. Says, why does it say only Elokei Yaakov? It doesn't say Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, which is the standard way in davening, where we say Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. So the Gemara says, like Avraham shekosav b'har. Avraham Avinu, when he refers to the Har HaBayis, we call the Har HaBayis, there he doesn't speak, when he went to the Akedah, he doesn't speak about Bayis, he refers to it Har. Asher Yomer Hayoy Bahar Hashem Yeroy. Avraham Avinu speaks about this Gila Lakus that he had on that space, he speaks about it in terms of Har. V'loiki Yitzchak Shekos By Sodeh. By Yitzchak, he says, when he went up to this place, he says, Vayetze Yitzchak Lasuach Basodeh. Is there, and Yitzchak uses the term Sodeh. And Yaakov, the only one who actually called this place Shekol Bayis, the only one who called it Bayis is Yaakov. Shenema, Vayikra Hashem Amokem Ahu Beiske. Yaakov Avinu, when he has his dream, that's when he refers to this place Bayis. So therefore, when the pasuk says the nation will say, "Let us go to Har HaBayis," it could only refer to Yaakov Avinu, that he's the one who calls it Bayis. She says, what's the difference if it's called Bayis or Har HaSodeh? So we have to understand what's the quality, what's the milah, what's the virtue of calling it Bayis instead of Har HaSodeh, as well, and why is it Dafki Yaakov that he's the one who calls it Bayis? So he says, brings the Marshal, that Shloishes Bot HaMikdash is Makbilim L'Shleishes Ovis. The three Beis HaMikdash refer to the three Ovis. Beis HaMikdash HaRishon Hu Keneged Avraham, Beis HaMikdash HaSheni Mechuven Keneged Yitzchak, Beis HaShlishi Yibane B'Schus Hashem Yaakov. Is Kol Echad Me'ovis is Yache is L'Mokem HaMikdash Behesem Loise Beis HaMikdash HaShayach Elif. Each one refers to the place, to the Beis HaMikdash, which is more in rapport, how do we say, in connection with his state. And he explains. The Bayis HaRishon HaSheni Shenivnu B'Schus Avraham Yitzchak Shosa Shchina B'Oifus Mani. The Beis HaMikdash HaRishon HaSheni were all temporary. Mugbo. Mishum Kach. Avraham Yitzchak Mishtamshim B'Loshon Har HaSodeh. Makom She'ein Adam Dor B'Hem B'Kfiyas. The parallel which we have between Sodeh and Har, both of them are places that people can be. We go on the mountains, we go out to the field, but it's more representing a temporary state of being. It's not a permanent dwelling, it's not a permanent home. It represents more a temporary presence. So the Beis HaMikdash HaRishon and the Beis HaMikdash HaSheni, both of them unfortunately were just temporary, both of them were chov, both of them were mugbal in a certain way. Therefore, there, Yaakov Avraham Avinu speaks in terms of Har, and Yitzchak in terms of Sodeh. Mashen kinabel u'mosav noikit Yaakov loshon Bayis. Yaakov Avinu uses the term Bayis. Why? Ki hu misyaches leBayis HaShlishi. Shemakbel Elav. The third Beis HaMikdash is related to Yaakov, and therefore the Bayis HaShlishi tishra Shchina b'oifem nitzchi leloi hefsek. The Bayis HaShlishi will be a permanent one. Just like a home is a permanent dwelling of a person, so to the Beis HaMikdash, Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi represents the concept of nitchis, and therefore it's called Bayis. So it continues. As Shaychusi Shel HaMusik Bli Gvul Yaakov, this concept of Bli Gvul, of eternity, of nitchis, we see this by Yaakov Avinu in different places. So it talks about the Parsha Vayetze. There we also find the Bichras Hashem to Yaakov. The bracha that Eibishter is giving to Yaakov regarding Eretz Yisrael. There it says, "Uforatz the Yom HaVekein v'Tzavoyin v'Negba." As it says the other pasuk, "V'achalticho nachlas Yaakov avicho," steht in Yeshaya, Nachla means Nachla b'li mitzorim. So lo yikav shekosu boy kumis halach be'oretz la'or kol orachbo. Although it was promised, but there was a certain limitation on it. The only one, so this, in other words, all over, taking everything without akbalas, this is shaykh to Yaakov. And this bracha is meneged the gula, oz, and says, this passion teretz Yisrael l'chol olam kuloi, l'loi gvulos. So this is where we see by Yaakov Avinu the Indian Anagbal. So he says, on the Roy Neifoy, Kehen Betchum Azman, in terms of time, the Nitzris of Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, and Hen Betchum HaMokim also in place, Tzorim. So Yaakov Misameles Heder Agbolas Ein Soifis. Yaakov is the one who represents, who symbolizes the concept of Ein Sof. I guess because of political correctness in this particular sefer, he didn't put in the obvious concept that we find about Yaakov Loi Meis, which we find in of Nitzchis. I guess for obvious reasons he didn't want to put it in here, but l'chura, that's quite obvious that this belongs over here, the concept of the Nitzchis in Zman. So the question becomes, what? I don't remember. So Madua Yaakov, so he asked the question, Madua Yaakov, who had Yatzik as Pashtus Ablimtik for this? Ma Kesher Am Yuchot Shel Yaakov Legeula or the Beis Hamikdash Hashlishis. He says, let's understand the specific connection between Yaakov in Bligvul, in Nitzchi, and Beis Hamikdash Hashlishis. So he brings over here a beautiful Alshach. The Alshach, he says, Alshach HaKadosh is usually called, is Mazbah. Shebeyankiv Matzinu Shlemus B'Yechedes. By Yankiv Avinu we find this concept of Shlemus more than we do not find by Avraham and Yitzchak. How so? By Yaakov we find Mitosa Shlemus. B'chol Zari Lo Haya Psul. L'Avraham, Leled Yishmael. L'Yitzchak, Leled Esav. Rak Yaakov Kol Bonav Hoyu Tzadikim. So we find already by Yaakov the meaning of Shlemus. So Mishum Kach. Bayis Arishon Shenivne B'Zchus Avraham, Hoyse Yechenes B'Idei Zorim L'Achrivoy. Kishem Sheishmoel Shehoya Rosha, Kibel Es Koychem Avraham. Since Yishmael did get a certain koyach from Avraham Avinu, so therefore he was able to bring about the Churban Bayis. And as it said, V'achan Alshach Mitzay Shebeis HaChurban Beis HaMikdash HaRishon, Sovel Am Yisrael Tzorech Boifim Miyuchad Meis B'nei Yishmael. There was a particular, the Bnei Yishmael were the one at that time who gave us a hard time. Says the Doim Melekach, the same thing we find also by Sheni. Esav Arosha, Kibel Keches Miyitzchak. Esav who comes from Yitzchak. The Kach by Sheni. Sheyesh L'Shayches Miyuchedes Yitzchak. By Sheni, as we said, is referring to, has a special connection to Yitzchak. So the Tzoras that came in By Sheni showed to Bnei Edom. Malchus Roime V'Chidei Yosoi, who are from Esav. So we see over here how the one who came to bring about the Golus, the Churban of Bayis Rishon, is related to Avraham, and Bayis Sheni is connected to Yitzchak. So says the Alshach continues, Rak mi Yaakov lo Yosoi Yunika, L'Keches Orav Atumah. Mishum, Yaakov Avinu, there was nothing that came up from him that it gave strength, that gave koiches to Klippa. Mishum shekol bon of hem b'tzad ha'kedusha. U'b'makbil lekach, concurrent with that, obviously, Yibane Beis Hamikdash HaShlishi, shelo yuchlu lo yedei zon. That nobody will be able to destroy. V'yasmid b'kiyum aliyat, and this will be existing eternally. That's where we see, first of all, that Yaakov b'tzad Mitosa Shleimo, therefore by Emzet, when we see the concept of Nitzchah. Says based on that, the Gala Alshich Emek Chodesh B'Tfilosa Shel Yaakov B'Makam HaMikdash. The Alshich is revealing a deep concept about his tefillah. When he had his dream on the place that he called Beis Keil, the Bayis, V'Chalon Shezoch Eloi La'achim B'Keil HaMetuorim B'Tchilas Pashosei. And he says like this: V'Yosef B'Darko LeBeis Lavan. When Yaakov was on his way to go to Lavan, Yaakov Nasim B'Matzim Miyuchad B'Mina. Yaakov finds himself in a particular situation. Who Yoytze B'Beis Midrashim Sheshem Ve'eva. Where Shem is Hala B'Limud HaTeva B'Beis Hashem. He's just coming from Yeshiva, from Shem Ve'eva. And Vu Geiter V'Yoytze L'Olam HaGadol is going out to the big world. He's going to have to deal with Lavan. What is he going there for? He's leaving the comfort, the security, the protection of Shem Ve'eva, and he's leaving the home of Yitzchak to go where? To fight in the world. What is he going to do? Live no his bayis and hakim mishpacha. That's what his mother sent him for, to go build a home, build the Klal Yisrael. Ubaderech, on the way, u'oiver b'makam hamikdash. He passes and he starts in Makam hamikdash. Sagt azeh, Yaakov knew Yodea Beis Hamikdash Rishon Yivana B'schus Avraham. V'yechorv lebesov. He knew that the first Beis Hamikdash would be built in the merit of Avraham, but will be destroyed. And the same thing, Yidol Agamkin Al Kach Shabbais Hashem L'Yasnu B'Kiyumoy. He knew the same thing by the second Beis Hamikdash. So now, Ke'esu Choyshev, so Yaakov Avinu is thinking, Ma Yale B'Doyrolish Al Beis HaShlishi. What's going to happen with the third Beis Hamikdash? She'yivana B'schus Ahu, which will be built in Ischus. Will this have Kiyum Nitzchi or not? Sagt Adovo Tolu B'Midas Hashpa'os Shen Yaakov Al Zarah. This will depend on the Hashpa'ah that Yaakov had on Zarah. Im Yamidor Yishorim Yevoyrach, V'Le'yishmetu B'Zarah Kochas Harav HaRosha V'Resha, Haresha Beis Hamikdash Yishol HaNetzach B'Dag Dusha. If they will all be Mitos Shneimo, as we know the Lashon, then you know that this will be eternal. But there will not be any Zolim that could have any effect, could have any power on the Beis Hamikdash. But V'im Cholilo Le'yatzliach, Tova Chas V'Sholem, Yaakov Avinu will not succeed. V'im Psul B'Zaroi, Harei Shegoyrel Beis Hamikdash HaShlishi, Yeh Kegoyrel HaBayis HaRishon HaSheni. Then Chas V'Sholem, the same thing which happened to the first and the second, could Chas V'Sholem also happen to the third. Mitoch Machshavas Einu, with these thoughts, with these thoughts, Yaakov Avinu is mispalel on the Beis Hamikdash HaShlishi. And what is it mispalel? Shegerole lo yeh kegoyrel habatim shekotnu lo. The goyrel of the Beis Hamikdash HaShlishi should not be the same as the first two. Sagt lo euro amur, based on that, as we know, Avraham Avinu has established that Mesaken given Shachis, Yitzchak hat Mesaken given Mincha, and Yaakov hat Mesaken given Meilut. Sagt Pavlos. As it says, Avraham Avinu tiknes in the Shachis, Yashkim Avraham Babeker, Yitzchak tiknes in the Mincha, K'meshanema, ויצא יצחק לסור בסודה לפני עורב, מנחתיים, ויינקיב תיקנס תילס ארבס. As it says, ויבדק במוקים ויולן שור. When it's the time ויולן שור, is then, ועוז יספר. sagt er, sie מסביר אלשיך, שני שסעובס הספרלו במוקים המקדש. אברהם, יצחק, יעקב, they all prayed, they all davened, all מספרלו כבן במוקים המקדש. אברהם הספרלו בבקר ביס המקדש הראשון. The Beis Hamikdash Rishon Shenivna Baboiker. The Beis Hamikdash Rishon was built in the morning, as it says, Betchilas Elef Avil Brias Oilo. Yitzchak is Baal Lifnois Erev Al Beis Hamikdash Hasheni Shenivna Likras Yuma Shel Erev Avil. Aval HaTfilah Shel Shneim Lo Niskablu B'Shlemus. The Tfilah, although they also prayed obviously that it should be Nitzri, was not accepted. Ulebsov Hichshecha Yanodani Dvorim Finster. War der Gottes. Habais Rishon HaSheni Nichelu. V'Yisrael halchu leGottes. Mitech Matzim Zeh Shel Chesher V'Afel. La'achar Chorban Beis HaSheni. Noch kommt mit Yaakov u'mispalel shekasher yoyrayem. Yaakov Avinu is mispalel when it's dark. Yaakov Avinu is mispalel when it's Gottes. Yaakov Avinu is mispalel by Lovan. This is a more with different places explained further. Where was he mispalel? Well, actually, he was mispalel of Harabais, but where was his avodah? He's going to explain later. There was his mispalel that when it will become day, so there was the Beis Hamikdash sein, oil nitzchish is kein Lord. And here he gives a very interesting point. I think very, let's say, painfully apropos to us. His Karmi says, Ki nitzchis hamikdosh tuluya b'midas hashpah Yaakov Avinu. The eternity, the nitzchis of Beis Hamikdash is depending on the effect, the hashpah that Yaakov Avinu will have on his children. So Yaakov did something about it. Yaakov was concerned about how his children will behave. And he knew the behavior of the children will make the whole difference if it's going to be nitzchi or not. So what did he do? He did something. So first Chazal explained, what is the whole explanation of the Lekichas Avonim? Shenisadu le'evanachas. As we know, Yaakov took May Avnei Hamokim, as Medrash says, he took 12 stones, and then in the morning it says, sie geworden ein Stein. It became one stone. Shenisachtu le'even achas. So he says, Avram yotze mene pselis Yishmael v'chol bnei Keturah. Yitzchak yotze mene Esav v'chol alufa. V'ani, sagt im is achoy shtei avonim zu lezu. If those stones, these multiple stones, will be unified into one stone, then I know Yodei ani she'ein yotzah ze mene pselis. Then I know that it will be nitzchi. Then I know it will be shlemis. And this is how Yaakov is going to sleep. How so? Hoping that the Eibishter will respond to his tefillah. That what? That it should become an achdus among his 12 stones. And indeed, who avonim is achdu le'even achas. All the stones became one stone. So Yaakov Avinu saw in the morning, when Yaakov Avinu saw that all these 12 stones that originally defined Olai Yaniach Tzadik al Roshah. In other words, I know exactly where the Tzadik's head should be. The Tzadik has to go according to my way of thinking. I know how Yaakov is going to accomplish. And this is what all 12 of them said. So for this Yaakov Avinu married God. But when he saw that all those became one unit, in other words, understanding that together Yaakov Avinu will accomplish, or that was Yaakov Avinu knew that he will succeed. And indeed he succeeded. I don't think it needs much explanation to what it says to us. So he continues. Yaakov Zoicheli is Galus Elokis B'chaloyma. In his dream he sees Gila Lukus, Rosetter, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mar Lo Es Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi Shekosher Elok. וכך הוא מזווד למאוסה בניון של הבייס. So he says, what is it? What is this bais supposed to be? First of all, he sees it's not going to be just a physical building, a gashmitic building, that's built by human beings. It will be bais ruchni. It's going to be a ruchnistic house. Shashem Yisborach Yored Oisem Min HaShamayim V'Yamid Oisem Ba'oretz. As the Alshach explains, what does it mean? This is the meaning of the pasuk. V'yachalem v'hini sulam mutzav arzo v'roishem magiah shamaymo. Mitzad echad, sagt er, was ist mutzav arzo v'roishem magiah shamaymo? Mitzad echad, from one perspective, it is zabai shemutzav beretz hagashmis. It's a gashmis the gebinyan. But from the other side, the himzo is nevertheless b'ma'alose aruchnis is roishem magiah shamaymo. From a ruchnistic perspective, roishem magiah shamaymo. Which means Hashemayim. Kasher hakavon el madrig el yonim ha'oy ha'ois hey she'oisnu be'asaf ha'mila Hashemayim. The letter, the hey, which is added not Hashemayim, but Hashemayim represents what? Madgisho she'medubo kan. Lo ibestam Shemayim. We're not talking just reaching the heaven, but it's reaching the darga and yonim b'miyuchat she'kayem b'Shemayim. In the highest level of Shemayim where it could reach. So that's the first thing that he sees. He sees that over here the Beis HaMikdash will be a complete fusion between Gashmis and Ruchnis. Second thing he sees, V'hine Malach Elikim Elim V'yerdem Beh. Malach Elikim Bohem Evorem Shiftom L'Reises Es Galus Elikus Shemeiro Bebeis HaMikdash. The Malachim are coming to see what's to the Beis HaMikdash. And then they go back. They keep on going back and forth, coming to Rav Nuki with this Beis HaMikdash. Then he sees further another thing. Havaya Nitzavol. Oy Malin Niflot here, the Beis HaShlishi continues the Alshach. Another tremendous quality is going to be in the Beis HaShlishi. Ein kan rak ashro shel ashchina boiset tag shoyet so the Beis HaMikdash, bebot HaMikdash shelefonov. It will not be only the same what we had in the first and the second Beis HaMikdash. Eliyoy bo Shem Havaya. Shekidu Reimers, the dag elekiz geboy b'yosef. He sees over there, in other words, it's a very high level of Gila Lukus. Obviously, the Alshach doesn't speak it in terms of Chassidus, that we have time and see later. So it continues. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Omer Yaakov, V'noichi Elokei Avram, Avicha V'elokei Yitzchak. Kiloimar says the Alshach, what does it mean? Avram v'Yitzchak chashuvim lefenai. Avram and Yitzchak are very important to me. ובזכוסם נבנה בייס הראשון והשני. Nevertheless, אף על פי כן, אני מחבב חביבס מיוחדס דווקא איסחו. I have a specific חביבס, נטיירקייט. What? Endearment. To you, Yankee. Why so? Sagt, ולכן, and therefore, since I have a special endearment, I have a special feeling towards you, Yankee, ולכן, הארץ אשר אתה שייכת אליה, לך אתננו לזרח. So he says, המקום שאתה נמצא בו, מקום המקדוש, ינוצא דווקא לך במתון הגמורה. לאברהם ויצחק ניתן מן המקדוש בהשאלה, was on alone. Why was it temporary? ולבסוף נלקח מהם, הבייס נחרב. אבל רק יינקי נויס לקדוש ברוך es מקום המקדוש, במתון וקניין נצח. So this is the difference between Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, that to them was only given on the temporary space, on the temporary way, but to Yaakov was given on a permanent. Just going to continue this little piece here. And שכל זה תלוי כאמור, בכך שזרע של יעקב יהיה שלם. All this is depending on what? That Yaakov should be שלם ולא יצא ממנו פסול. בקשר לכך ממשיך הקדוש ברוך הוא בהבטחתו, in connection with the shleimus of Yaakov Avinu, זה מבטיח בו זרעך כפר הארץ, אין לך ממה לחשוש, you have nothing to be afraid of. שכן זרעך יהיה כאופר. says כאויס האופר הידוע שממנו נקרא אדם הראשון. שעד לחד עץ הדס וקודש ותואר, כך יהיה זרעך. The special bracha, the special holiness of the kingdom of Yaakov Avinu. והקדוש ברוך הוא מסף ומבטיח ליעקב, עליו שבונך יבולד בחוץ לארץ, although your children will be born in חוץ לארץ, הרי לגביך כל העולם יחוש מבחינת ארץ ישראל. As far as you're concerned, the whole world is ארץ ישראל. שכן ופרץ ליום וכן ובצפון ובנגבו. כל מקום שאתה תלך בתמשון מבחינת רוחניס. ולכן גם במקומות הנחוסים ביוסר, even the lowest places, יגודל זרעך בקדושו, ונברכו בכל כל משפחה ישראל, אדם ובזרח. ועדיין, in the meantime, לא ינוח דעתו של יעקב is still not relaxed. עדיין הוא חושב שבהליכה is born of the Gobus. Yaakov Avinu is still afraid that by the fact that his children will have to go in Gobus, לאחר חורבן הבית הראשון והשני, הם יסערו בגויים וילמדו במעשיהם. פריי בזה is afraid אם כך יהיה, הרי שמעלוס הנפלא של בית השלישי לא יטויל איש, won't help anything. בעניין זה ממשיך הקדוש ברוך הוא מבטיח. This is what the Eibishter is promising to Yaakov Avinu. והנה אנוכי עמך, ושמרתיך בכל אשר תלך, ואשר לא יסיך אל אדם הזויס. Why? I will bring you back. Why? כי לא אעזוב עד אשר למוסיסי, איזה אשר דיברתי לך. I will not let you go. I promise, I will not let you. I will not forsake you until I can finish, complete my promise to you. גם מבני ישראל, יוד וחלודה, לדיוטה התחתונה, if חס ושלום, you will go to the lowest level, הרי בסופו של דבר, יקום הפוסק, the posik will be fulfilled. ואשר לא יסיך על האדם הזויס. אבי לכך, I will bring about שהם יעשו תשובה ויגלו, they will hold the תשובה. ובלושן הרמב"ם, הבטיח אותו שסוף ישראל נעשה תשובה בסייף גלוסו, ומיד אין יגון. The Torah is promising, the Rambam says, there's no question that we'll do tshuva. Just to conclude that we don't have time to go through the whole thing, you're welcome to learn it yourself. Just one interesting point which is explained, I don't remember where I saw it, that the Alshach asks a question, Taka, why was Yaakov the one who was Zoiche more than Avraham Yitzchak that he should be Mitzvah Shlema? So he says an interesting point. Davke because he worked by Lavan. Davke was in a time of Ma'ariv. Because Yaakov Avinu, where did he build Am Yisrael? Where did he build the Shvatim? Avraham Avinu had it relatively easy. Yitzchak had it relatively, so to say, more protected. Yaakov Avinu had sich gefunden by Lavan. Lavan, which was all about the deepest clipper. A place of Sheker, Lavan was Kiyudu, was Lavan represents. Nevertheless, in such a time, in a time of such darkness, Yaakov Avinu was able to build the Shifte Hashem, the Shifte Kol, the Faris Mitzvah Shlema, and the Faris Zecher to the Minyan of Nitzchis. I think it's quite obvious, quite clear that it speaks to us. Dafki in our time, in a time of such a great choshech, whatever way we want to term it, whatever way one wants to relate to this time, it is a time that we don't see and we don't hear the Rebbe directly speaking. We don't. The Rebbe's here, Tov alle Bracha. Ich hab nicht, ich seh nicht. So in such a time, when it is such an error, it is so dark, and we are doing exactly what the Rebbe tells us to do. We are continuing doing our shlichus, which the Rebbe says, what is our shlichus? To overcome the nisyonis. Avoidance of Berurim has concluded. What do we have now? The nisoyin, our nisoyin. How do I welcome Mashiach? The Rebbe doesn't tell us we should bring Mashiach. The Rebbe said, that's a shingendik. Was ist jetzt der Avede? Lekabel bnei Mashiach tzidkenu. Mashiach is here. We have to bring him into our lives. In other words, this is a pnimistic avodah with ourselves. This is a very difficult avodah in such a man of nisoyin, in such a time of darkness. When we do this, there's no question about it. Then any moment, as we just learned, as a tichot Torah, mit zusammen mit dem Rebbe, any moment, who you going?
Ich gehe auf Zusche, ankommen ein bisschen später gefahren mit der Rav Shapiro auf dem Flame, aber ich bin sehr, dass der Junge stark zugeherzigt zu. Yeah. The Seder will be now, there will be two parts, which we have the honor to have with us, Rosh Hashiva, Shem Yom, talking about 40 years, from Mamadal, them years, 40 years. 40 years Yeshiva and Yeshiva Gedel from Miami, Harav Hagon and Rav Ableil Shapiro, which is going to speak to us. First part will be Mishnoster Shal Rebbe, the Rebbe's Uftu in ganz Leben, Nigla de Teira, and then we'll break for Mincha, and the second part will be a very interesting part. He'll give us, Rav Shapiro was Zeicha, that he was one of the Amudei HaTovach in the preparing the Likkutei Sichos, the Anochos and everything, and he had first-hand relationship and remarks from the Rebbe and how to proceed and so on and so forth. So please join me in welcoming Harav Hagon Harav Shapiro.
Running right back afterwards, back to Miami. So, and coming here after a Shabbos that we had in Florida, we had Gansanasha, Florida. I mean, it wasn't Gansanasha, but they had special Shabbos Achana for Gimel Tamid, a Shabbaton in the hotel, which we had 1,150 people, just for Florida people. I mean, with kids, man. So I'm still a little bit, if you want to call it, a little bit under the influence. So if I talk and it doesn't make any sense, you'll understand why. Anyway, the first thing that we're going to discuss is what we call it Mishnosi Shel Rebbe, and basically we're talking about the Nigla part that we see in the Rebbe's Derech HaLimud to see how the Rebbe approached certain things in learning. We're not going into here that the Rebbe's Derech was to be with Diyukim and all this. These are all other protim. But I'm going to go just to negate the Derech HaLimud of the Rebbe. We know that the Rebbe writes in a letter himself that Yedua, that Darki B'Limud is the Derech of the Ragachover. That's what the Rebbe writes. That my way of learning is the Derech of the Ragachover. So what we have to see is look a little bit into the Derech of the Ragachover and apply it and see how it fits in the Rebbe's Sichos. And then we'll see, I'll use an example of one thing, the way there is a thread that goes through many Sichos in many places in Derech and Nigla, the way the Rebbe approaches different things. Now we know B'chlal, there are no two drochim in Limud in der Welt, in Nigla. There's what they call the Derech HaNituach, and then the Derech HaChrifus. Derech HaNituach is when you come, Nituach means to cut. When you, Lamoshel, see a stire, there's a contradiction, two Rambams. Two halachas, which, not the same halacha, but very similar. And in one halacha it's the din like this, the other halacha the din is differently. We'll say, Veta Shaila. Why? Why is the din different here? So the derech hanituach, what it'll do is, if you go with that derech, you start analyzing. That's what it is. It's a derech of analyzing. Analyze each case separately. Look into the details of each case, and then you'll see there are certain pratim in which one is different than the other, and that will be the key why the halacha here is like this, halacha is like that. So you have to break it up into pratim and pratim, till you come to understand that because of this and this prat, here the halacha is chayiv, here the halacha is poter. Even though ba'eifim kloli, ba'eifim makifi, superficially you look at the two, they're basically the same. Darf man reinklemmen, look deeper. You don't just rely on the way it looks, the makif. And when you look into the protein, you will come to understand that because of these and these protein, that's why the halacha changes. That's a taich derech hanituach. You analyze the cases. Then there is another derech, which is derech of chrifus, which is more known as the Polish derech. That when you have a stira in two cases, you look at it, ba'ef makifi, that's what they look. Oh, it looks pretty the same. How come here you're chayiv and here you're poter? You come up with a chrifus, they can think, here is there's der man domer, this is that man and or you come up with this a hamtzor, it's a chap, and that's how you come up, a sharp chap, and that's how you answer the kasha. Bepashtis, the way you go with derech hanituach, that you get a deeper understanding. Because when you go into derech hanituach, you're analyzing the cases and you get to really understand the cases. By the Rebbe, we see that there is even a further step in the derech hanituach. And that is not looking into the protein. The derech hanituach is look into the protein, and when you see the protein, you will see the difference. It's farkeret. By the Rebbe, it's the union of looking into the nekudas hatamsis. You look into the nekuda of the teichon of the din, and when you look into that nekuda, automatically you will see that there is no stira between the two, because when you see the nekudas inyan, you see the truth that inyan shine to you, and you see the truth of what this inyan is. Automatically, you don't even have to find the teretz to answer the stira between this case and this case, because if you look at it from your mile lamata, let's call it, you look from the sheirish hadover. So then, when you look, then automatically there comes out that there is no stira. Here the din has to be like this. Here the din has to be like that. Because from the nekuda, if you look at the nekuda, sometimes from one nekuda could come out two hofchim. Sometimes from one nekuda yisvara could come out two opposite results. I'll just use an example, not of a vort in the sikha, but of a certain halacha. We know in Shabbos there are different malachas. One malacha is malacha maki b'patish. What is the malacha of maki b'patish? Tikkun keilah. What's the malacha? Every malacha has a tziyud. Someone will ask, be mitzayer to me. Describe what's malachas bishul. There's a tziyud, only way to describe it. You take food, raw food, you put it on fire, it's bishul. How do you describe the malachas ksiva? Take a pen and you write two letters. That's the tziyud of malachas ksiva. Let someone describe what's the malacha of maki b'patish. There is no tziyud to this malacha. Anything that a person does that will finish off the keilah, that is the malacha of maki b'patish. You could sometimes have two opposite pa'ulas, and they're both bichaya from maki b'patish. So sometimes when you look at the nekuda, you could come out that two opposites are really one. Sometimes farkeret, you would come out, when you look at the nekudas hatamsis, you will see that we see clearly why one case is like this, one case is like this, because when you look into the nekudas inyan, you see it. This is basically known as the chilik, but the Rebbe brings this in different places, the difference between the derech halimud of the rishonim and of the achreinim. Why is it that we find a lot of kashas that the achreinim has, that the Yeshua and the achreinim has starke kashas in the Gemara? In the rishonim we don't find such kashas, the chur starke kashas. Why didn't the rishonim, Chas v'sholom, didn't think of such kashas? And what's the answer? The rishonim saw the chatchila, the inyan the way it is, that lechatchila they saw there's a difference between the cases and you can't compare the two. But it wasn't below kasha v'teretz. When you don't have the nekudas hatamsis, when you go, let's say, derech hanituach, you have a kasha and you have a teretz. You're dealing with two cases, you have a kasha. Then when you start dealing with the protein, and you come looking at it, and you see, okay, so when you get into the pratim, you see this prat, they're different pratim, and maybe they're different. Here it's forget, l'chatchila, you look mamayla lamata, and you see l'chatchila demis, and there's no kasha to begin with. So the Rishonim, these kasha that the Achreinim asked, didn't ask, because they saw l'chatchila the emes. The Achreinim didn't see that way, and they have to go with the kasha of the teretz. There's a story of the Alter Rebbe, that there was once a chassid came to the Alter Rebbe and he said, he has a son, this is a greisa lampen, but a greisa valgaiven, and meint the ken goras achlenen, and so the Alter Rebbe said, bring him to me. He came to the Alter Rebbe quoted to him something that the Marami Rutenberg writes. And he brings a raya to his din. A raya, nicht as a starke raya, but a raya. Alter Rebbe says to him, do you have any other rayas to this din? And he answered, yeah. 5 strong rayas to the din of the Marami Rutenberg. Alter Rebbe says, very good. I have 6 more rayas to the din of the Marami Rutenberg. Together 11 rayas. So then he asked him a shayla, so how come the Marami Rutenberg brought this other raya, didn't bring any of these 11 rayas, brought one raya, only shalash tarkim. He didn't know. So the Alter Rebbe starts going through raya by raya, shlogs up every one of the 11 rayas, and the only raya you couldn't slog up with the raya the Marami Rutenberg brought. And then the Alter Rebbe says to him, what's meinst du? That the Marami Rutenberg thought of each one of these rayas like we did. And came with the upslug like we had. The rayas lechatchila didn't come to him because he saw the truth. And when you look at the real truth into the Kudas Inyan, you lechatchila see it's no raya. So by the Rebbe we see that when he goes into the Masbir in Yonim and Iglim, so you see that he has a lot of times, and you have to have the voice to this, I'm just saying to close the Gevurah, that stiras that are answered is because you look into the Nekudas HaTamsis, and B'meila automatically when you see the Nekuda of the Inyan, so these 2 Nekudas are completely different. B'meila the Chatchila is no Shaila, and if you see the Nekuda you don't even ask a Shaila. If the Rebbe does ask a Shaila and gives us a teretz because he's Masbid in the Nekudas Inyan, that's because we need the Kasha and the teretz, because we don't see the Nekuda. But by the Rebbe Take, he saw it. They say this, that Chaim Zimmerman once got a letter from the Rebbe, and he asked the Kasha from the Rebbe, I think he wrote to the Rebbe, or the Rebbe wrote to him, I don't know. But the Rebbe wrote him a letter and answered a shaila, a few kashas in Kotchin. And he went out of the Kelim and he said, Et Mer'uiv Geloich ganz Kotchin. And he said, I see the Rebbe's Derech HaLimud, he said it like the Rishonim, that what a word, a going, a cook, and you see the Indian and automatically everything falls into place. But as I said before, one of the things that happens when you look at the Nekudas HaTamsis of India, when you look at the Nekuda, what happens is that sometimes when you have 2 opposites, they're really not opposites. Because like I said before, as you see the Moshul of Makib Patish, that from a Nekuda, the way it's Nistayef and Nitztayef, when it comes out into a Tzir, coming out of the Nekudas HaSeichel, sometimes you could come out 2 opposites, and the 2 opposites are really not opposites, they're really the same. Because beside the Nekuda, they look opposite, but they're not opposites. And I want to bring some examples of different inyanim where we find the Likutei Sichos, different inyanim where the Rebbe we see such a derech, in such inyan. Now I have a list of different places. I'll read you the Marmakebis from the places. We'll start off with one. We'll go to as many as we have a chance. So what time? In Likutei Sichos Chelik Tesvav, Sichat Chanukah. There the Rebbe brings the Rambam, where the Rambam says that if you have Ner Shabbos or Ner Chanukah, you only can afford or get one candle. Let's say one Osher to go for Ner Shabbos, they should go to Ner Chanukah. So in Hilchas Chanukah, the Rambam writes that Ner Shabbos Kedem, Ner Shabbos comes first, and he says because it's because of Shalom Bayis. You know that Ner Shabbos is for Shalom Bayis, and the Eibishter allowed his name to be erased when it comes to Shalom Bayis. We know by a Soita, when there's a problem, so the way to solve the problem is by writing down the Megillah, writing down certain parashas, and you erase it into the water and you give it to drink. So the Eibush, they're allowed to have his name erased. Why? Because of Shalom Bayis. And Shalom is so great that Kol HaTorah Kula Lenitna L'das Shalom Bayis. The whole Torah was given to make Shalom. This is the Rambam. The Rebbe asks many questions on this Rambam. And then, I'll mention a few of them, and then he goes to give a beer. One shaila is, why does the Rambam bring the extra things? He should have said Stam. Their Shabbos and their Chanukah. The Shabbos is more important. It comes first. That's it. Why does he bring in Arayah from Mechikas Hashem by the Soiter? Then he goes into the whole thing that God Allah Shalom, Allah Torah, Nitna Lasa Shalom, the Torah was given to make Shalom. Why is all that important in the Rambam? The Rambam, whatever he writes is halacha. This is not a halacha. And another shaila, why does the Rambam write this in Hilchas Chanukah and not in Hilchas Shabbos? L'chura, this is Adin Shabbos. Shabbos is stronger than Chanukah. Neiras Shabbos is more important than Neiras Chanukah. So it should have been in Hilchas Shabbos, not in Hilchas Chanukah. And then the Rebbe asks, why does the Rambam change? The Gemara uses the Lashon Neiras Shabbos Odif. The Shabbos is better. And the Rambam changes and uses the Shabbos Kedem. Why? And he asks more shaylas. But these are the main Nekudas, 3 Nekudas, the shaylas. And I'll explain what the Nekudas Ha'inyan here is. B'chlal, we know one of the known things by yeshivas and by the way you learn Nigla, always with Chkiras. So there's one famous Chkira, which is Hutra, Tchuya or Hutra. When you have sometimes two things which contradict, you can't do them both together. If you're going to do one, the other one won't be good. If you do the other, this one won't be good. What do? So whatever the halacha is, one is deicha the other. The shaila is, when one is deicha the other, is it tchuya? Does it mean it's deicha, it pushes it away? Or is it hutra, or is it matir it? Does it give it that? It's matir. The difference tchuya and hutra would be, tchuya means the isur is still basically there. Let's say you're aver on the isur in order to do the mitzvah. Mitzvah says, esa deicha lo isur. So you do the mitzvah, you're aver on the isur. Elamai, the Torah pushes away, the mitzvah pushes away the isur. Hutra means the mitzvah was matir the isur. To say in push the words, there is a stira here. There's a contradiction. There's a fight. There's a fight between, let's use Esdech Leisa, which are Rishonim, the Mefarshim, they fight and one wins. It's not the pshat that the one that wins won over the other one, whether it's Tchuya or Hutra. But it makes it so that the one that Kidiyach lost himself is masking and wants to do the other way. To say, normally when we learn whether it's Hutra or Tchuya, this is all a din. Let's use the Esdech Leisa as the example. It's a din in the essay. The essay is so strong. It's a din that the essay is so strong, it's Deicha de Leisa. The essay is so strong, let's say it's Matir de Leisa. But if we could come out in a case, sometimes when you look into deeper in Inyan, not only is the Leisa, let's say, lost, but that's the din, the Leisa itself munt that you should do the other way. Which means you're not even on the Leisa, whether in the form of Tchuya or form of Hutra. You're Mekayim the Leisa. Imagine, by going against the Leisa, you're Mekayim the Leisa. You could only come to such an understanding in whichever cases, only if you look into the deeper inyan of what this whole thing means, and when you look into this deeper inyan, you will come out, if you look at the Nekuda, you will come out, the two opposites, seeming two opposites, they're not opposites. The two opposites realize the same thing. The one that's losing, which is the opposite of the one that's winning, in itself wants. Now get back now to Shabbos. The Rebbe wants to say that when you say you have a shaila of Ner Shabbos and Ner Chanukah, and you have to make Ner Shabbos not Ner Chanukah, normally you would learn one of the two ways. Or Ner Shabbos is Deicha Ner Chanukah. You only could do one. So there's a fight. Which one should happen? So we say Ner Shabbos is more important. Fine. Or you could say it's Matirit. Comes the Rebbe and the Rebbe says, no, the Rambam wants to teach us that not only do you have to like Ner Shabbos, not Ner Chanukah, because Ner Shabbos wins, you are Mekayim Ner Chanukah by lighting Ner Shabbos. Ner Chanukah itself, mont that you should light Shabbos not Ner Chanukah. Why? And that's what the Rambam brings in, that Kol HaTorah Kula Nitna La'aseh Sholom Ba'olam. The whole Torah was given to make Sholom. The Teichen of every mitzvah is Sholom. Is Sholom. Imagine if you have a mitzvah that the real Teichen, the Gilui, is Sholom. Ner Shabbos is not just like Tefillin is also Sholom. Every mitzvah is Sholom. Kol HaTorah Kula is Sholom. But there is only one, the mitzvah of Ner Shabbos is B'Peil Sholom. So when you have to light Ner Shabbos, instead of Ner Chanukah, Ki'ilu you will say, I'm using these Narish terms, if you'd ask Ner Chanukah, what should you do? So normally you learn, Ner Chanukah schreien mi. Kommt Ner Shabbos schreit nicht. And the Torah sagt, Ner Shabbos means. Ner Chanukah will Amazon blend at Ner Shabbos. Why? Because if the whole Teichen of every mitzvah is Sholem, so the Teichen of mitzvahs Ner Chanukah is Sholem, so you're Mekayim, the Teichen, the Nekudah of what Ner Chanukah is. And that's the reason why the Rambam brings in here something extra. Kol HaTorah Kula Nitna La'aseh Sholom Ba'olam. It's not the Pesazaitik. It's Maz B'dei Halacha. Why is Ner Chanukah first, Ner Shabbos first? Because Ner Chanukah wants it because Shabbos is the Yikar and you're Mekayim Ner Chanukah. That's why the Rambam doesn't use the Lashon like in the Gemara Odif. Odif would mean Ner Shabbos is better, stronger. The Rambam doesn't bedavke changes the Lashon. He says Kodum. Kodum means because B'Peil, you have to tell it which one comes first. But he's not masber that this is better. That Ner Shabbos is better than Ner Chanukah. It's not so. Because when you're lighting Ner Shabbos, you are being Mekayim Ner Chanukah too. The Teichen, the Nekudah of what Ner Chanukah is. And the Rambam brings an example. What's his example? The example is from Mechikas Hashem. Now normally you learn Pshat in the Rambam that Mechikas Hashem is by Saita, that you talk Ever HaYisra, Mechikas Hashem is a terrible thing. The worst of it is to erase the Abish's name, Shem Havaya. But Sholem Bayis is so important that you're allowed to do it. So that's the Raya normally you learn, and the Rambam brings the same thing here. Ner Shabbos is more important, and that's why Ner Shabbos goes first. But first of all, the Rebbe says, how do you know? Maybe only such a Sholem Bayis, like avoiding the divorce. Das ist made the Gezach. But Sholem Bayis of Ner Shabbos, maybe not. What's the Raya? That's not what the Rambam means, the Rebbe says. The Rebbe says what the Rambam is telling us, a dogma to such a thing. You write L'chatchila the Eibishter's name in order to erase it for Sholem Bayis. Which the Rambam is telling you deeper pshat, that the Mechikas Hashem is a din in the Ksibas Hashem. It's not the pshat there's an Aveda Mechikas Hashem, and the din of Seite Sholem Bayis is Deiche that Isser. Is Matik that Isser. No, you look in the Nekudas Inyan. The Nekudas Inyan is that Sholem Bayis is so strong that you L'chatchila right. It's a din in Ksibas Hashem. So here I'm using an example of this and that. The other examples I'm going to bring are all along the same line, because in many, many sikhs, actually I made myself a shimi here of just a few, of 11, that you could see that in every one that ever goes in the same derech, that you see that two opposites, but if you look deeper and you see, you're not mefared the protein, it's not chrifis, it's not derech and nituach. It's looking at the nekudas ha'inyan, and then you see opposites. It's not opposites, but opposites here. This is opposite because you're going to like Ner Shabbos, not Ner Chanukah. No, this is Ner Chanukah. Mitzad etzem nekudas ha'inyan. Another example is one of the more famous things in the Geyan Deiche, Pikuach Nefesh Deiche Kol HaTorah Kula. So we have the famous Chiras, Pikuach Nefesh Deiche Kol HaTorah, or the Matir. Shailas in the Shenis Rambam, Mahin Aher. Same Shaila. When it comes to Pikuach Nefesh and you have to Mechal Shabbos, is the pshat that Shabbos is so important, it pushes away Deiche, the din, the Chil Shabbos, because the Pikuach Nefesh is so important? Or that it's Matir, the din of Chil Shabbos? Comes the Rebbe, and the Rebbe has a different pshat. Also, he brings the Rambam as kashas. I'd rather go through more examples than go be ma'arich in each one separately. So maybe I'm not going to see the kashas. But the Rebbe's nekudas inyan there is. It's not the pshat. There's a fight between Chil Shabbos and the mitzvah Pikuach Nefesh, and Pikuach Nefesh is stronger. Being Mechalel Shabbos is Shmira Shabbos. It's not that the Chilul Shabbos of Pikuach Nefesh is Shmira Shabbos. Why? Just one of the Nekudas he brings. If you look at Rashi brings, like, what's the union of Shabbos? So Rashi says that the Eibusher gave us a Shabbos to show that the Eibusher chose the Yidden. It shows the love of the Eibishter to a Yid. When it comes to saving a Yid's life, that's the Nekuda of Shabbos. If the Eibishter gave a Shabbos, ki bono bocher Hashem, this is, so in this case, you're talking physically Mechalel Shabbos. But that's not the Chilul. This is Shmira Shabbos. And the Rebbe goes even a step further here, step more than the Eira Chaim HaKodesh. The Eira Chaim HaKodesh writes that since the Gemara says, Chalal of Shabbos Achas Klei Lishme Shabbos is harder, you Mechalel one Shabbos, so you're able to keep many Shabbosim. So the Eira Chaim writes, when you're Mechalel this one Shabbos, Harei Zeh Shmira Shabbos. You're doing it for the benefit of Shabbos, not that you're fighting Shabbos. So the Rebbe, I'm saying it even deeper. Because according to the Eira Chaim, what the pshat is, it's a dini Shabbos bichlal. Shabbos as a whole is going to get it. You'll be able to keep 100 Shabbos. But this Shabbos you are actually mechalel. And the Rebbe says, even this Shabbos you're not mechalel. Even this Shabbos is called Shmira Shabbos because you're doing now the pooling says before you even save them. Going to do the pool of Chilul Shabbos is fulfilling the teichun, the kudah of what Shabbos is. Which is the same guy as over there. You're fulfilling what the meaning of their Chanukah is. Then we have a Parsha, this was in Chelek Chav Zayin. The first one is Chelek Tesvav, Parsha Chanukah. This one is Chelek Chav Zayin, Parsha Achrei, Chelek Yudalet, Parsha Shefti. There the Rebbe talks about the opinion of Nevuah. That's the famous Sikha, where the Rebbe says that there is this Shaykhis Nevuah, also Bisman Hazeh. Even though Pashtas, the Gemara says, Mishamesu Chagis Chari Malachi, Tosko Nevuah in Yisrael, that when the three last Nevi'im passed away, Chagis Chari Malachi is no more Nevuah. And the Rebbe writes in the Pshat there that doesn't mean there isn't, that means it's not common, but it's still possible, it means Zaraya, whatever. But in that Sikha, he talks about something else. He talks about if a Navi will come and tell us to be Makriv HaKorban Bebomo. We know you're not allowed to Makriv HaKorban Chutz of the Beis HaMikdash, and the Mizbeach. It's Chutei Chutz. It's Kodesh, it's a terrible thing. Eliyahu HaNavi, nevertheless, was Makriv HaKorban and a Bomo, Nahar Karmel. How was he allowed to do it? The answer is, and Navi tells you, al Zahira Esho, a temporary din, you have to listen to him even if it means to be over on other Isurim. Now normally when it comes out to be over other Isurim because the Navi says, how do you learn? One of the two. Or the din of Shmiel and Navi, Eilav Tishmon, is stronger than any mitzvah, except of the Gezorah, but stronger. I'm in this example. The Navi will tell you, B'mchal Shabbos. This Shabbos. He says no more Shabbos, but you know he's a Navi Sheker. This Shabbos, he says, I have a nevuah that you have to be Mechal Shabbos. You have to listen to him. Why? So you could say because the nevuah, the din Navi, the chi of Eilav Tishmon is stronger, is deiche, the Isser of Shabbos, Chilul Shabbos. Or you can go further. It's matir. So the Rebbe says if you look into the din of a bomo, you'll see a tiferet inyan. It's not the pshat you're deiche, the Isser of Shchuti Chutz, of shechting a korban outside of the Beis HaMikdash. You are Mekayim the din of Bama, just like at those days when you were allowed to have a Bama. It wasn't Deichet, saying the Issa Shchut Chutz is Deichet Bama. There were times when you were allowed to bring a Bama. Allowed to bring a Korban the Bama. That's a din in Korbanis. It's not a din that if it's against Korbanis, Elamai, there's a more important thing. That's a din when you ask what's the din of Korbanis. This is the Shabbos, this time the Bama was mutter here, Bama was also. So those times when the Bama was mutter, it's not that the din of shechting outside the Beis HaMikdash was pushed away. That's the din. This is din korban, just like when you bring the Beis HaMikdash. So the Rebbe brings rayas. The same thing is by a Navi telling you to bring in a bomb. It's not the pshat that the din of a Navi tells you is because it's matter the Isser of Bama or Deichet Isser of Bama. What he says is, this is a din hakrovas korbanos. It's not a din in nevuah that nevuah is so strong. When you look into the Emek Hadover of what the Gather of Bama is and you understand it, then you will see that this is a different din. And that's why there's a special posik when it comes to a din Bama, because there's one general posik in the Geya Nevuah, you have to listen to the Navi, Eilav Tishmo. But here there's a posik that says, that in Tala, Mokim Asher, don't bring Karbanis any place you want. Has to be one place. So the limud in Sifri is that this posik teaches you that if a Navi will tell you to bring the Bama, you're allowed. And the Shaila Rebbe asks, why do we need a special posik? There's a general posik, Eilav Tishmon, that tells you of every din. Because by din Bama, there's another din. It's not Chuyo. It's not Hutro. There's no stira to begin with. The two stiras, the din of that you're not allowed to bring a korban, you have to have the Mizbeach. And the other thing that you in this case you have to bring is not a stira, it's high no half. But that's only if you look into the Teichel in the Kudas Inyan. In Chelek Chabeis, page 214, the short thing there, and the Rebbe says there's a din that if a person wants to learn Torah in a certain place and he thinks he'll be matzliach there, you don't have to listen to your father. Even if your father doesn't want you to go. I don't know, you got to ask a shayla if it happens. Don't just do that. And the Rebbe asks, why is this written in Hilches Kibbud Avim? This should be written in Hilches Talmud Torah. It's why? Because learning Torah is more important than Kibbud Avim. Now, it doesn't go into the Prati Hutra Tchuya, but I'm saying it. L'chura, what's the pshat? The din of Talmud Torah is Doichet the Chiv of Kibbud Avim. Mater the Chiv of Kibbud Avim. Here it says a different thing. Here it says, the Rebbe is telling us that this is a din in Kibbud Avim. This is called Kibbud Avim. As another place, in Chelik Chav Hey, page 151, there he talks about the Isur of going out of Eretz Yisrael. The Rambam says you could only go out if you're going to learn Torah or to save Eid, to do business. The Isha. So the Rebbe asks, there's another thing. The Gemara tells a story that one of the Amoraim, his mother came to see him in Eretz Yisrael, so he went out of Eretz Yisrael to greet her and bring her to Eretz Yisrael, and you were allowed to do that. And the Meiri Taka says that you're allowed to go out of Eretz Yisrael to meet somebody to come into Eretz Yisrael. So why doesn't the Rambam bring that too? And the Rebbe says very poshut. You're allowed to go out of Eretz Yisrael, the Lisa Isha, because the mitzvah of Lisa Isha is Doichet the Yisra Mitzvah of Eretz Yisrael. It's Mater the Yisra Mitzvah of Eretz Yisrael. This is part of being in Eretz Yisrael. Since you're going to meet somebody who's coming, so this is a form of coming to Eretz Yisrael, not leaving Eretz Yisrael, even though the Pilmamish you are going out. But that's when you understand the depth. You look into the Nekudas Inyan and you see what the Inyan is. If you look superficially, someone's going to look very superficially. What's the story here? It's two dinim. This is going out and there's a din. You're not allowed to go out. And here you're telling to go out. Elamai, meeting the person is so important. It's Deicha the Yisur of going out. But when you look at it, Milmaila Lamata, and you see what this is, it's not the same thing. So they make a joke. This is just to show, this is a crazy example. It's an elementary example. It doesn't fit every case. But just as a joke. They say once they were sitting by Sheva Brachas. There was no Ponim Chadoshes. Was tut man? Nicht Ponim Chadoshes. Comes einer mit Tagmelik Akasha. I have a good answer. The Gemara says, when the halacha is Klei Cheres, you cannot kasha. The only thing you can do with it, you put it into an oven, into the kiln, and then you're allowed to become kosher. Why? So the lotion is because Ponim Chadoshes bo come. Because there's a new Ponim Chadoshes, it's a new kelim. What's your problem? We have an oven right here. Let's take a klecheres, put it into the oven. We'll take it out. It'll be point chadoshes. We'll put it on the table. Is ba drinking? Is this a good kasha? Da versuchen a teret. Mit reinklären. You know what? It's another geder. If you look at Chila, know what you're talking about. If you look at this, is like I said, an elementary example. Some sakasha mit a teret. Als nicht dort tun, why? I steht doch selber Sache. Da steht point chadoshes und da steht point chadoshes. It's not together. Same thing here. When you look at certain things, when you look deeper, when the Rebbe looks at Mamai Lamata of all these Gdorim, he sees in the Kudah of Mele, this is some sastira between Ner Chanukah and Ner Shabbos. This is Ner Chanukah. When you don't do Ner Chanukah, this is Ner Chanukah. Be'etzem, not much time, the whole Nekudah of the Rebbe's Chkira, Benegeya, one of the most famous inyonim that the Rebbe deals with. Not only Beruchnius, but Gashmis, and not only that, the Nigla, Yin of Shlichus. The Rebbe Shlichus, before before there were certain things that were moving from the Rebbe, and the Chkira by Shlichus, Yosef Engel's Chkira, the three ways. Be'etzem, these three ways are the same three ways we're talking about here. Whether Hutra, Tchuya, Hutra, or this thing becomes one. What's the Chkira here? The Chkira here, do we say Shluch L'Adam K'meisa means that Reuven makes a Shliach Shimon to do something. To Mekadosh as Isha. Reuven is Reuven, Shimon is supposed to do it. Torah says Reuven can do it. So you can learn three ways. It's a stira here. We need Reuven to do it. How could Shimon to do it? How could Reuven do it? Him to do it is a stira. So you can learn, what are the, let's go first the Pashta ways. One way is that the Torah said that even though the shliach is not the meshaleach and what he did not. Nevertheless, the Torah says that this works. The middle way is that the Torah says that the pu'ula, the shliach is not the meshaleach, but the pu'ula is misyachis, which means it's connected. We consider it as if he did it. And the third way is the shliach becomes the meshaleach. Rubi becomes shimish. Shluchim k'meisei mamish. These are the same three ways. The first way is really tchuya. There's a din that you have to do it yourself. A mekadosh Yisrael has to mekadosh himself. Not somebody else. Someone else will go mekadosh is garnished. Here we're saying, yes, someone else will do it. It's a stira to the din that he has to do it. So tchuya means, Torah was deicha and said, okay, I don't care. It's taki him. What he did is his pu'ula. It's not misachis. But the Torah is deicha that problem, in the case where you're mamana and shliach, the Torah is deicha the problem of being somebody else. The other way is the Torah is not deicha. The Torah is mati. It says allows it. What says allows it? It is misyachis to him. And the third way, the Torah says no. The shliach is ein zach. It's hainu hach. It's the same nekuda that we have hainu hach. That something that seems to be the opposite becomes that inyan. If you look into the Emek Adova, you will see here it's three darkest, three fanim, but the Nakuda is the same. And this Nakuda, why am I bringing it here? It's not the Rebbe's Chiddush, it's Yosef Engel. But the Rebbe has many places where he has the same gang as we have Ashlichis, which is the opposite direction. Not when you do something. Here's, no, it is, whatever. So you have the same idea. Like just read a few places. Chelek Tazayin, Parshas Yisrei. Look up at Tais v'Shabbos. The Rebbe is a chkira. Shabbos starts from the shkia, whenever it is man Shabbos. Then there's a din Tais v'Shabbos. Says number one pshat is every person has to be makabel upon himself a few minutes before Shabbos, and b'meila it has a din of Shabbos. Another din is whether you're makabel or not, bal korche, you have to keep those minutes. And another din is story is that Shabbos itself extends to the time before Shabbos. Which really defend three things. Be'etzem, the minutes before Shabbos are not Shabbos. And here we're telling you it is Shabbos. You have to keep Shabbos then. So you could say, it's al derech. It's not the same words, but it's al derech. I'm using this example. Tchuya. What is tchuya? Sitake nish. Sitake not Shabbos. Desvek. The Torah is deicha. That problem, it's not Shabbos. It says, it's Shabbos. Then the other way is, it's not nor tchuya, it's hutro. And therefore the pshat is, that is bad from Shabbos. But it's all mitzvah the gavret, not Shabbos itself. Kid. There's a din be'etzem that you have to keep those minutes. And the third way is that the Torah said that this man which is not Shabbos became is Shabbos. It's not Shabbos. It's a stira to Shabbos. Sunday is not Shabbos. Friday is not Shabbos. The Torah makes it it's Shabbos. That says that's why the Mechilta he gives a moshel to taste the Shabbos. He gives a moshel of a ze'ev, like a wolf. It's Torah milafon of l'achrav. What's the adding? So it's adding to tell you it's not the pshat that it's the gavra that you have to. Shabbos itself extends itself. Chelik chofav of Purim. There it says, the Mishnah says, Megillah Nikraz, Yudalo, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel, Yudalo, Tesvov. He asks a few kashas, and the Nekuda is there. When we're talking about those manim, besides Purim and Shushan Purim, the earlier manim that the Bnei, that Machnisi, that Magdimin, the Bnei Kforim, Magdimin, Maknisa, there are three ways to learn it. You could learn one way. It's talking not the Zman of the Megillah. Beferish not. Nevertheless, the Torah said, the Chachamim made, you could read it, and you'll be kind the din of Megillah, even though it's not the Zman. Or you could learn, it's talking not Be'etzim the Zman. But what is it? It's a tashluming to the Zman. And then the Rebbe says, that's not the Pshat. This is the Zman Megillah. Even though it's not Megillah, it's without the Svov, mitzad whatever din the Chachamim had, this Megillah itself, this became this Megillah, which is exactly, again, the same three things. And I'm being Mekatzer in the Mamish. Chelik Chod Gimel Parsha Chukas. Mitpachas Sefer Torah. When you have the cover of the Sefer Torah, there has three ways to learn. You can learn, it's Pashat for the person should hold the Sefer Torah. It's a din of the Gavri, you should give cover to the Sefer Torah. Or, it's not the Gavri, it's for the cover of the Sefer Torah itself. I'm saying the Bekitzer. Or, this becomes part of the Sefer Torah. Just like the Gillion of the Sefer Torah, even though it's not written anything on it, is Sefer Torah. The Mitpachas is Sefer Torah. And here you have the same three. You have a Sefer Torah and you have something which is not a Sefer Torah. You can't say that not a Sefer Torah, yes, Sefer Torah. You could say it's Luhutcha, you could say it's Hutra, and the Rebbe goes into the Emek Adover and says, no, this is Sefer Torah. Parsha Kisove, it says if you bring a keilah by bikurim, in Chelik Chofutes, when you bring bikurim and you bring it in a keilah made of reeds, you have to give it away together with the bikurim. So he has three ways. Is this a din nesina? You have to give this a din bikurim. There's a separate din, but nothing to do with the bikurim. There's a din that when you give bikurim, and if you bring that, you have to give it. Or it's because of the bikurim, it goes together with the bikurim. Or this is part of the bikurim. It's not. Bikurim is shavaminim, whatever it is. This is a basket. It becomes part of the bikurim. In Chelik Chavzayim Parshas Azriya, Mechusa Kippurim. Like I said, this is only an example. Only 11 examples. In Parshas Chukas, Azriya, Chelik Chavzayim, Mechusa Kippurim. What's the Mechusa Kippurim? Somebody who was Tomei, but he has to bring a korban. Certain tumas have to bring a korban. He went to mikveh. He had Harif Shemesh. What's the Mechusa Kippurim? So the Rebbe brings in one place, in the Gemara says, the Lashon, that he's still Tomei. The Rambam uses the Lashon, Le'nigmer Tarosei, and Rashi and Chumash says, Kruyot Tomei. And the Rebbe goes into the same way here. He goes into the three Nekudas, there are three different ways of looking at it. You could look at it, he's Befeirish, not Tomei. There's a thing that he has to behave in certain things as if he's Tomei, but he's not. It didn't change. That's his only Korei Tomei. Or you could say no. Le'nigmer Tarosei. Or you could say he's Mamish Tomei. To these dinim, obviously, whatever the dinim are, because other dinim is not, but the God of those dinim, he's as Tomei as I is not Tomei, he went through the Torah, so the Torah nish does it. We see this gang in the Rebbe Sichas of this is just an example of one gang. The gang of, as I said, the three Inyonim by Shlichas, the three Inyonim by Hutra Tchuya, the Rebbe says by Chaneke, and by Pikuach Nefesh. This is a gang in the way the Rebbe goes in many things, because when you look deeper into the Inyan, you see to the Kudah, like using the example of Pikuach Nefesh. If you look at the Nekudah of what Shabbos is, not in the Pratim, you'll understand right away. Versteigzach is the same thing, because this is in the Nekudah Inyan. And this was the Rebbe's Derech HaLibud. This is how it's Nekudah Sichas. And this is how the Rebbe, and the Rebbe writes, you do a Darki, is Derech Darakachover, and the Rebbe adds the Shitosi, a lot of times the Shitosi, which is connected to all to this. When you look in the Nekudah Inyan, then you come out with the Shitosi, that two things happen to be the same thing. And that we see in many places by the Rebbe L'Shitosei. What's the whole Nekudah? The Rebbe says, Kikoch L'Shitosei. Why? The Shitosei means that even though they're two separate sugis, the Rebbe can make L'Shitosei from Beini B'Klotz. You see, there are some people, and I'll just finish in a second, the Pelish Derech, you find zwei weite Sachen and you make it L'Shitosei. And the Loshin would be, and the Rebbe himself used to laugh at that sometimes, dass he zugestellt Avant zu Avant. It's nothing. And the Rebbe sometimes does the same thing. But when you look where the Rebbe does it, he goes into the Emek HaNekudah of what both things are. Unsitake, the Gaink from Seichel that's in both is the same thing. The Tziyur is Amish. And you could have from one Nekudah, comes out to the opposite Tziyur. Al Capone, one thing is for sure, we have to learn the Sichas, and later on we're going to explain it from a different angle. And one thing is also for sure, if you learn the Sichas, you know the Sichas, Hotman Alts, Ershens Menagreisa Goen, you're a big Lam, you're a big masculine Chassidus, you're a big Avid, because all the Aveda, you know everything. So, besides everything that learning the Rebbe stated, that's the greatest discussions that Shachas, today's Hayim Yehim, so the Rebbe should help him, so lernen the Sichas, and so bald sein, Teire Chadosh mit the Teitze, we should see, nu Teire, nu Inyonim, so sein Giloi, Lakuzbe, Korev Mamish, with the coming to Mashiach, so Zebit and Rebbe, Dolamata.
Break from Mincha. Right after that, we'll have what we're all waiting for, the behind-the-scenes story about the Sichas, the Rebbe's right, there is the Chelik with the Chaluk of the Sichas.
The Kudah here is, as I understand from title, the inside doings of the Sichas. So a little bit to tell the history of the Sichas and how it came about. Obviously, you don't need me here to be able to tell you the importance of learning Birkut Sichas. So I'd have more time, I could go into that also, but we all know that. The Sichas of Bechal the Rebbe Steyer. I just want to start off with something. This Friday, someone showed me, he got on his phone, on WhatsApp. It's not basically for this man, because there's a Shem Kabbalah. So a certain clip. So he showed me the clip. What was the clip? There was a bocher talking, and he started his conversation. Started advertising like it. He says, I just read 3 books that gave me insight of the Rebbe that I never saw before. The Rebbe's greatness, the Rebbe's leadership, the Rebbe's seeing the future, the Rebbe's godless, the Rebbe's sitkis, and the Rebbe's learning, scholarship, and the Rebbe's Ahavas Yisrael. Mamish, three books that I just read, and I really recommend everybody to go to the bookstore and buy these books. And I'll show them to you. The text of the Likutei Sichos, Teres Menachem, and the Ikras Kodesh. That's what it is. This is what is our books that we have to see from there, the godless of the Rebbe and the Rebbe's guidance and the Rebbe's things. Anyway, when he gave this, we all know what Likutei Sichos is. The Rebbe's for it. Just want to say the history of what it is. Things which were very posh, everyone lived it. Nowadays, the younger people, some people don't even know how it happened. We know the Rebbe, like Fabrengen, spoke all kinds of inyonim. Every Fabrengen, he would speak Niglich, Sidis, Kabbalah. Wasn't a Vilna, Kol Torah Kul, everything was in Fabrengens. The Rebbe did not write down the Sichos that he spoke. Didn't write down the Mamorim either. The other Rabbeim would write down the Mamorim themselves. The Rebbe didn't. The letters that he has, the Rebbe should, he says he has no time, whatever, but the Rebbe didn't. But the Sichos, the Rebbe didn't write the Sichos. Now, sometimes it would be that for some specific occasion, that was a Sicha that the Rebbe said that was important for something, a mitzvah or something that the Rebbe wanted, they would give in the Sicha of the Rebbe to Magia, and the Rebbe was Magia the Sicha. But that was a Yetzim and a Klau, that was special things. But generally speaking, the Inyonim of the Biyurim that the Rebbe said constantly on the Parsha, Magimor, and whatever it is, if you see this, the Rebbe was never Magia. What was? There were Hanochas written. Hanochas written first till Tovshin Chav Gimel, Chav Dalet, Chav Hey, or Rabbi Yael used to write all the Hanochas. Then it switched. He was busy with the Sefer Erkim, so then Bochum started. That's when it started getting the name Hanochas Atmimim Bilti Mugin. There was a whole discussion. Remember when we started this, what to call it? We didn't want to call the word Hanochas Bilti Mugin. It's a copyright of Rabbi Yael, so we changed it to Hanochas Atmimim Bilti Mugin. As you see, because we felt it's not as good as his. Anyway, so this is just the Hanochas. After the Fabrengen, the Chayzri, Bereshim of Rabbi Yael, everyone knows, I mean, his mind is brilliant, he has a phenomenal zikaron, and not so much his zikaron as much as his tfisa. Kosher Teufus, Ainian, that's how he remembers it, even more than the zikaron. He's the main Chayzer, but there were other Chayzerim, and there was a certain time that the Rebbe was Mamaneh, Sabbath, Pashas, Shalach, Toshin Chavod, the Rebbe was Mamaneh for Bochum to become official Chayzerim. So they would have Shailas on the Sichos, and the Rebbe wanted the Shailas should be asked. So they would give in Shailas to the Rebbe, ask the Rebbe questions, and the Rebbe would answer. I make copies here of some of the things. So let's look at, it's hard, there's no numbers here, so just to show you, where are numbers? Oh, yeah, sorry, there are, yeah. You see, take page number 6. Look how it starts. This is a letter to the Rebbe. But it's not an official letter via Chosich Shaykh to Rebbe, but it's also Chassidim geschrieben, no one else wrote it. But not, it's a, this is Poshet, Shailas in Fabrengen. This boyer, Beknirish Rashid, this and this. And the Rebbe would answer, you see all this Ksav Yad, these words, all the answers of the Shailas. Look at the next page, it's a Hemshech, page 7. Page 8 is from a different Fabrengen. And you see all this, and the Rebbe would, many times, not many, usually, by answering the Shailas, he would add a lot of depth into what he said by the Fabrengen. Because we have to know what he said by the Fabrengen. Really, there was much more in what he said than what you think he said. The Rebbe's line was always, Ten lachocham v'yech kameid. There is much more. So when you start looking into the Mekeiris and looking at what he said, is you get deeper understanding of what he said. On the other hand, vet kashes, and you ask the Rebbe, and the Rebbe would answer. There were some individuals, not as official cases, people also would ask shaylas. That's why if you look at page 9, page 9 is a letter from a Yochid, from a private person who wrote to the Rebbe, and he asks, the Hemshech le'isvad is the Tmeil, when Mishan Mushli Kehiski, this and this, he asks me, Shayla, you see the Rebbe's Ksav, but the Rebbe answers. Sometimes it would be that not only the Rebbe would answer Shayla, the Rebbe himself would, after Shabbos, send out, etc. In addition to the Fabrengen. And I would get it many times, whoever was there first from our group would get it. The Moshe disc settle here to end. If you notice, you can't see the copy, actually, this is written on an envelope, on a torn piece of envelope. The truth is, I meant to bring the original one to show. It was such a rush when I left, I forgot. But see, the Rebbe himself wrote, Lahachmis Baharad, to add in the Rishimas Dvorim, in the Hanoche, that's what the Rebbe called it. And he added, B'muzgir. This is not interessant. Put it in parentheses when you put it into the Hanoche. Why? Shalei niske by Svatis, because I didn't mention the Fabrengen. So if you didn't mention it, it's a separate category, whatever it is, whatever the pshat should be. And he goes in and he says that based on what he said, Al Pi Anal, Maturas Gamkin, and this and this and this Indian. So this is after the Fabrengen, the Hanochas would be made, and the questions were asked, and the Rebbe would answer, and the answers would go in, if it was possible, if it was enough time, it would go into the Fabrengen. And that's how it went on all the years. Now, one year, Tovshin Yud Ches, which is before my time, but this is the history the way I know it. This was the year Chotes, right before Yutes. Yutes, Yud Dalet Kislev was the Rebbe's Chassan anniversary. It was 30 years. So people got together, they Bochrim, and they wrote to the Rebbe. They went to get the Rebbe Matana for his anniversary, 30 years. And the Matana is that they'll give him a Sikha every week, but the Rebbe should be Magia. And they found an excuse for it. Since the Rebbe wanted that he should go Chazak Chassidus in the shul, you need material. So he asked the Rebbe that he was Magia Sikha. At first, the Rebbe was upset, even for the Shayla. Rabbi Chadakov called in the people, Nachum Tzedek, Olav Shalom, and he said to them, the Rebbe has no time. If he'll do this, he'll have to take away time from answering private people letters. Pikuach Nefesh. How do you expect? He was angry. How do you expect that? Why do you do such a thing? The Rebbe should take away time from answering people's shaylas in Sakonis Nefashos for this? Now, the Bochrim were verstandig, and they answered. That's Pikuach Nefesh Begashmis. This is Pikuach Nefesh Beruchnis. And the Rebbe said, okay, Ibazei, I'll do it. So what they did was, maybe Rabbi Yael would take a sikha, not from the Fabrengen of that Shabbos, or whatever. A Fabrengen, looking back, this was Tovshin Yud Ches. Any sikha from the years from beginning of Tovshin Yud till then, that fit to the Parsha, and just take the Hanocha, and give it in, Pashteitzach, take out some things, because when you speak certain things, you say Derech Hagav, you say, take out all these things and leave it. And the Rebbe was for 1 year, this happened before Shavuos Tovshin Yud Ches. And it went down for a year to Shavuos Tovshin Yud Tes. The Rebbe was Magi every week. And it came out stenciled, it wasn't even printed. And it was, those that remember, it was the green cover, stenciled, and it said on top, Teuchen in Yoni Bedach Lassen Rabatach Nisiyas. I feel going to Achkira, what the Pshat Devet. The word was like this, on top it said Teuchen, then it goes, in Yoni Bedach Lassen Rabatach Nisiyas. Is it, do you have to read it, Teuchen in Yoni Bedach? Or, Teuchen, what is the Teuchen of this pamphlet? In Yoni Bedach Lassen Rabatach Nisiyas. Look, we get along this, anyway. And that's how it came out. At the end of that year, the Rebbe stopped. He had no time. But besides that, they say, and he complained that people weren't learning it enough for the Rebbe to give up his time. And I can guarantee you that when he gave up his time, he didn't take away from answering Pikuach Nefesh Shaylos. He probably took away time from his eating, from his sleeping, from his other things that he did, his own things. Had to be worth it, that should be. And besides that, to be honest, you could say the truth, the signon, the way it was written, was mamash like it's hanocha from Fabrengen. The way the Rebbe said it. There is two things. There is the way a person speaks, and then the way it's written as a sefer. And the Rebbe was, so the Rebbe stopped. Those pamphlets, we call it, or the kutim, that came out that year, they printed it up, and it turned into Chelik Aleph and Beis of the Kutesichis. They took it, the ones on the Parsha, they started it not from Shavuos, because even though it started from Amidbar, I think it started from Breishis, and that became the Tukra. A few years passed, and they tried again. And again, they wrote to the Rebbe, this was for Tovshin Chov Gimel. And the Rebbe again agreed. And this time already, what they did was, they already had somebody, Misagnin, that's the way this means that they wrote it, and Misagnin means somebody who could write proper Yiddish, and who could write it in a way, was, Nish V'Meret. And the Rebbe was stuck happy, it was Misagnin. But here it started a little bit more, that the Rebbe wanted, that not only you should write what he said, look into the Makairis. See. And when you look in, besides taking what he answered after the Fabrengen, you have to incorporate that, but take more, look in and see, and you'll see there's much more, and then ask me. There are a lot of times he said things which he himself wrote. That's the Astira to them. The Moshe once, this is, as much as it's a little embarrassing, that once Ben Shem Tov decided to take the anochas that we gave out Because from Tovshin Chavov on, we started making, a group of us, a few people, we gave out Anochas, we called it, like I said, to start being mefarsim in the yeshivas. And he gave it to the Rebbe, and he wrote to the Rebbe on mefarsim in the yeshivas. And the Rebbe answered not to do it. And he wrote to him, why? Limreis kolo azhores, kol ashgiyes, hoiches achashbeini. As much as every page, if you took the Molek Hanochas, every page at the bottom, the Rebbe wanted, it said, Hanoche bilti mugir. So we used to write Hanochas atmimi bilti mugir. But there are mistakes there, for sure. When you write Hanoche, sach it is what you remember. Maybe you don't remember properly. What you understand, maybe you didn't understand right. I mean, it's everything totally in those people who wrote it. So there are definite mistakes. So the Rebbe wrote, Kol Ashgiyas Hilchas Al Cheshbeni. People won't say, oh, this time there was wrong, the wrote it, made a mistake. The Rebbe made a mistake. And he wrote, Lamoshel, this Sikha that you just gave in, there is a stira to this Sikha from a Shulchan Aruch, in the Shulchan Aruch. Now, obviously the Rebbe is not like every Fabring and everything he mentions, he's not going to say Kol HaTerakula, but enter now a stira, it's not possible. But when you give it out, and he didn't even write what the Torah says. So the Rebbe wanted that they should look into it, ask the Rebbe, and the Rebbe is setting to try to see if you could figure out the pshat, and then ask me. Or you'll be right, or you'll be wrong, and I'll fix it. So those Tov Shechal Gimel from Bereishis started coming down with the Sichos again, and it came out again for a year. And that turned in afterwards, Chelik, Gimel, and Dalet with the Sichos. And you see that the Signet is already a little bit different. It's already more Yeshivim professional. The other one is just Basmeret. And also you see a lot of more orders there, because the Rebbe wrote more orders, and there were other questions more asked the Rebbe about it. Sometimes if you ask a question, the Rebbe, see, if you ask a question, and the Rebbe doesn't expect you to know the answer, so fine, he would answer. But if the Rebbe expected you to know the answer, he wouldn't let it go through. He would give a chelik she'ein kamei. You can't imagine. Okay, we'll get to that soon. But Lepel, this is the sichas of those years, Chav Gimel. After Chav Gimel, it stopped again, and for a few years in a row, it stopped. The Vad La'afotza Sichas, which was the Vad that was involved in giving out the Sichas, Rabbi Yael was the one that wrote it. Rabbi Heshke Dubravsky and Hesky Gansberg were the ones that were masagnin it. But the ones that gave it out was the Vad. A few people at the Vad about the Sichas would send out every week a likud to 10,000 addresses, yeshivas in different places. So what did they do? They took the old Sichas that was Mugi from before, from Chelik Aleph, Chelik Beis, Chelik Gimel, Chelik Dalet, and sent it out. This went on till it came to Tovshin Chavtes. Tovshin Chavtes they were also sending out. Came one parsha, first one was Shmeis, I think. There was nothing to send out. That week there was nothing to send out because everything that's printed, that's shaykhs, so the parsha already was sent out in the measure of the years. So what do? And Bechal, this was a good excuse to write to the Rebbe, if we don't have a sikh to this parsha, would the Rebbe be Magia this week? They gave it to the Rebbe, Rebbe wrote the sikh, gave it to the Rebbe, lo and behold, he said, Gearbet. And the Rebbe was Magia the sikh for that Shabbos. A new sikh. Like, man, so a simcha, a new sikh. Geh doch noch ein paar Wochen. Sie macht sich weiter, that you don't have a sikh to give out. And gave it to the Rebbe again, and the Rebbe was again Magia. So there are not so many, but there are a few sikhs from that year. It came out in Tovshin Chavtes. And then already it didn't come out stenciled, it came out printed with the cover called Likutei Sichos. By the way, who gave it the name Likutei Sichos? I don't know. It started after the Tovshin B'Ches, when the pamphlets came out every week. At the end of the year, they had a lot of copies of each one left over, so they bound them. They bound them and they gave out the volumes of those bound, and they called it Likutei Sichos. So I don't know if the Rebbe told them to call it, or I've never heard, or themselves, but that's how it's called. Here it was already officially called Likutei Sichos, and the Sichos came out for these few Shabbos. And then when it came to the year Tovshin Lamed, Shin to Rebbe, now we don't have Bechlal. Would the Rebbe be Magia? And the Rebbe agreed. So Tovshin Lamed every week they gave him the Sicha, and here already it was with more shilas and looking into the Inyan deeper and trying to ask the Rebbe shilas so much that you see that in the Sichas, went out for Tov Shin Lamed and Lamed Aleph, and a little bit of Tov Tes, which, by the way, some people ask, oh, how come in some parashas there are 3 sichas? We know that from Tov Chelik Hey to Chelik Tes, every week is 2. Why is it 2? Because those are the sichas that came out in 2 years. How come a few of them have 3? Because the ones that came out, those few that came out of Tes, went into this Sefer. So here already, you see more questions and arguing back and forth with the Rebbe. The Rebbe was Magiya each Sikha twice. They would prepare the Sikha for the Rebbe, and after it was prepared, which means very lot of work was put in, looking into what's made the Rebbe take. And a lot of times it's shooting, sometimes it's much more. Then you take the Tzetlach that the Rebbe answered, to incorporate that into it. A lot of times the Tzetlach were deeper, much more, sometimes even different than what the Rebbe said. Sometimes even different. And the Rebbe told Rabbi Yael and Yechidus once that, sometimes I answer you on a Zettel and it looks like it's different than what I said by Fabrengen, because you think he said that when I finished the Fabrengen, I'm finished the Inyan, I'm finished with this Inyan. I still keep on looking into this Inyan, I still continue learning this. And ich halt schon weiter, and him is more than Yonim already, more. And when you were asked the Shaila 3 days later, the Rebbe halt schon weiter, so he answers you that a lot of times you couldn't understand what's he answering. But then you realize, that's what the Rebbe told him. The Rebbe told him, before you write in the Shailas, you should speak to somebody else to discuss it. So he says, I do. The Rebbe asked him, who? So he said, Leibel Shapiro. The Rebbe started smiling. Chatalmid. So what are you going to expect from him? The Chatalmid. You darfst reden mit der Ibcher ist Tabernik. You have to speak to somebody who's outside verkehrt. So then you'll come out and you'll see what is verkehrt. So I had to ask him, I'm not even. And this went on for 2 years, Tov Shin Lamed and Lamed Aleph. When that was over, Tov Shin Lamed and Lamed Aleph, the Rebbe stopped being Magiya. The Rebbe spoke about it by Fabrengen, and he said the reason he stopped is because he made himself a simon, a ganze meisen, and the main thing was that the ones that writing the Sikha has other things which is for him more important, and he couldn't do both. It's impossible, it's not Keches and Lushim. Rebbe could do it. The Rebbe couldn't, and he had to write that Sefer Eirkim, which was very, very important for the Rebbe, very important to have Kama Timing. So the Rebbe said, I can't be Magi the Sikh anymore. And the Rebbe said to the Rebbe all kinds of things, that how could you stop it, and all kinds of begging and pleading. But for bringing the Rebbe said, ich bin geschrieben, Masberg, ich bin wie gut es ist. The Rebbe darf nicht Masberg sein, ich weiß allein. But whatever reason he had. Came that summer of Lamed Beis, Lamed Beis. A few of us got together and decided, inside, maybe we'll try ourselves. The Rebbe said that he shouldn't be involved in it. He could be involved, but he shouldn't be the one to write. And we already had some experience because together with him we worked, so it was 3 people. It was Nachman Shapiro and Leibel Kapanol Hasholem, and myself. There were 2 people who were involved in the Gashmis, and the running it, the typing it, everything. That was Sholem Jacobson, it was all Mechani. But the 3 of us sat down, we made zwischen ourselves, we're on our own. Sit down, let's try to ask the Rebbe, we'll make the Sikhs, would the Rebbe be Magiya or not? And try to do it. But you can't just ask the Rebbe, you have to show some sample. So we sat down during the summer and we prepared Bereshis, Neyach, Lech Lecha, Vayerach, Hayisara, Teildis, Vayetze, 7 Sikhs. And we thought maybe we should even do it in Lashon Kodesh. Actually, I was very much pushing it for Lashon Kodesh, for a simple reason, because, first of all, in Eretz Yisrael, a lot of the Hafotz is in Eretz Yisrael, and many people don't speak Yiddish. Number 2, the problem is, why a lot of people didn't look at it. You ever hear a Sefer in Yiddish? Zeneren is in Yiddish. Meise Bichel is in Yiddish. But in Yiddish, people don't look at it. Have Lashon Kodesh. So we decided, let's try it in Lashon Kodesh. And we asked the Rebbe, not at that time, just mentioning it now, but it was a time later, the Rebbe was asked, does he care? Does he want it in Lashon Kodesh or in Yiddish? And the Rebbe's answer was these 2 words, Ein Nafkamina. So from the Rebbe's side, there was no Nafkamina. Anyway, we prepared these 7 sichas, gave it into the Rebbe, to the middle of the summer, towards the end of the summer. And we wrote to the Rebbe that this is what we're able to do, and we're asking the Rebbe to be Magiya, yeah. We're going on a Woche, 2, 3, ein Keil, ein. There is no answer, nothing. Came Tishrei, like the Rebbe Tishrei with such a shaykhs. Came Shana Rabba, because by the Rebbe we knew from different times that Shana Rabba at night, after the Rebbe finished saying Chumash Dvarim, before he went down to Tilim, was a Zman Mesugel where he would Magia Sikha. If there was a Sikha, something that happened in Magia, that was the crime. So we said to ourselves, Shana Rabba, we expected the Rebbe should answer, should give it out. Shteim and alle drei, alle finif, standing by the door, Ganet Natachten, they're waiting. I think before Tilim, Rabbi Groner went into the Rebbe, came out. He expected him to come out, didn't. Nothing. What's tut man? I'm telling you behind the scenes. Decided that Simchas Torah by Koshel Brocha will protest. I say protest. We're going to all five of us walk together and go to the Rebbe. We're all five walking. The Rebbe looks at us. And the Rebbe knew, because we wrote our names, he looks, takes, we used to give, those years he used to give a bottle of mashke to the shluchim or to mezdis, takes the bottle of mashke, gives it to Reb Zalman Chaim, gives it into his hand, ta greis shmeichel. Das is verwarla for the sichas. Oh, he left us. It's not mishmeik me roimdik. Simchas Torah that year was, I think, Monday and Tuesday. Monday and Tuesday. So we thought, okay, Shana Rabba. What's the day after Simchas Torah? Morgen, after the Kosher Brocha. So we thought, oh, after such a smile, what's going to happen tomorrow? The Rebbe is going to come with the Sikha from the house of Mugi. So we saw 70. We're waiting there. We came early. Most people weren't there. No Chazak Fabrengen, Kosher Brocha. And we were waiting. The Rebbe came, and the masker, whoever it was, went into the Rebbe, came out. Nothing. He said, Wednesday. And if we want to start, it has to start from Parsha Bereshis. So we decided, again, there's a Loshen, Chazal, Chutzpah, Klappe, Shmaya, Mahana. Maybe do some chutzpah, but by the Rebbe to do some chutzpah is a risk, Shein Komeyu. If she matzliach, is matzliach. But Tome nicht. It's not shaykh, but Rebbe, it's not. Malchus, you don't start up with. I mean, it's not. It's because I'm Malchus. You can't. It wasn't. But we said we'll try. We'll take a risk. We made a copy of Bereshis. Of the Sikha that we gave him Bereshis, and we wrote a little settle to it, and we wrote like this. We are planning to print this for Shabbos. And as if saying, you want to be Magia, be our guest. We didn't say these words, obviously. But we wrote, we're giving it out for Shabbos. And we're asking them to Magia, but we said nothing. We're asking if Magia, we're printing this. And we gave it in. And the copy, the plots, you can imagine, we didn't know what the Kenzain is. Kenzain. Gain durch, I can't remember. Porsche, it's a halben Tag. Rebbe was Magia the Sikh and gave it out. Oh, we also wrote, I remember that Zevi said, Asach Orchim, especially be something new. Rebbe was Magia. You can't imagine the Simcha that we had, the Rebbe was Magia the Sikh. But then we still weren't sure till the next Shabbos that maybe, like, since we wrote it's for Gate to Orchim, our year, for Tishrei, maybe it's not. Upel came next Shabbos. Rebbe was Magia the second Sikh, and that's how it started. This was Tov Shimam and Gimel. And it was Moshe Kedesh, and the Rebbe went on for 2 years like this, and was Magia. Then it stopped for another year. It looks like the Rebbe didn't want to make Chazokit. We don't know. 3 years in a row. And then, Lamed Hey skipped. Lamed Vov started. Lamed Vov, Lamed Zayin, and it went down from there till Chav Zayin Odek, till Tov Shin Nun Beis. Now, Tov Shin Lamed Ches, which was the third year from this cycle, but Ned Getracht, who knows what's going to be? Especially the Rebbe had a heart attack then. The Rebbe asked for a Sikha, laying in bed. They didn't want to give him Bereshis. The Rebbe asked for a Sikha. And he wanted, he was Magia the Sikha in bed. Actually, it's interesting to note that so, you meant that the Rebbe will stop here also. Especially the Rebbe asked for the Sikha. Where's the Sikha? They're not giving him the Sikha. It could be he wanted to forget show That's eventually spoil, from the, and he was Magi the Sikha. I remember the Sikha, I was already not there, but the Sikha for Parshas Noach, again he was Magi in bed, and if you know the Sikha Parshas Noach in Chelik Tes Vov, the famous Sikha where he talks about college, where he talks about Chochmas Chitzonius, learning Chochmas Chitzonius, is a Hachana to Mashiach, and in the middle there's a big sif, few paragraphs, and this is in Yiddish already because they went back to Yiddish. And there the Rebbe writes, as much as he's masbid that Chochmas Chitzonius is because it's Megala Savaya, does it go next to the idea of being allowed to go to college, and it goes into the whole thing up and down in college, all kinds of things. He wrote that laying in bed. I remember when I came from Miami after later, and I used to always come and look what that goes. So I saw it was mamish scribble. It was hard even to read because the Rebbe's hand was shaking because he was laying in bed when he was Magiya the Sikha. But it was Magiya the Sikha then, Lamed Ches, and it went on like this till the end. Now, like I said before, working to prepare the Sikha for the Rebbe expected that it should be Dor Sholem, and that's why if something sometimes was not so as the way the Rebbe would expect you to do, the Rebbe would. The Moshel is an example that I give many times. I said that many times. I'm sure you heard it. This is one of the lighter things that the Rebbe in the Sikha mentions, that the word Knani means a seicher. Not a Knani, but a seicher. Actually, the Mokir, this is a posik. Knani biyode means memirmo. But Rashi in Chumash, in Parsha Vayeshev, where it says that he married the Vasish Knani, Rashi says Tagra. So I remember the Maramokim is that we wrote, because the Rebbe wanted them, and he mentioned Mamre Chazal, and it's a big Maramokim. So we wrote the Maramokim, the posik. Knani biyode means memirmo. So the Rebbe in his Magia, he added to the Maramokim Rasha in Parsha Vayeshev, and then he wrote on the side, "V'chi av echad mikem ein alein betchitas." Like you guys didn't know this Rasha, and this was from the easier ones. The word mavhil was pretty common. Sometimes a big word, sometimes with one exclamation point, sometimes two and three. Actually, when you see, even in the Shilas, you look in the Shilas here, I was thinking, should I read this one or not? Because I think it has this. This is the Heinke Mission Rising. Look, page 7 on the bottom. Look at page 7 at the bottom. The Shilah here, what does it ever write? Mavil. How do you translate Mavil in English? Shocking. Yeah. Shocking. Harei mefurish. You see the word mefurish 3 times underlined. Harei mefurish because of Shecholim Yaakov Klau. And in this shyness, I think there was another one. I don't know if that's part of what we made a copy of. Moshe, take the bottom of this of page 6. This is not Fabrengen, this is Shaila. The Rebbe writes here. Yeah, a Shaila was asked. Maya Shaykhas lam duber bisvadas. Maya kushim belachatchila al pipshat. The Rav Yankiv, whatever the Rebbe goes into the Indian. And the Seder used to be, when you gave him the Rebbe to Magi the Sikha, so you understood the pshat the way you thought the pshat was, obviously. And then sometimes the Rebbe changed it. Sometimes he left it. The Rebbe would Magia once, and then give it out. And then when you give it back, the second time, what did they do? They took the Sikha the way it was given and typed. After the Rebbe made the changes, the tikkunim with the sofas and all this everything, it was aufgesetzt through a printing machine on what we call gellies, like the gellies. There were one of these yellow gellies that used to be. And were given to the Rebbe a second time. There were some times that the Rebbe was Magia added the second time more than it was in the first. The Moshel. Look here. See, first 2 pages, the reason I brought these 2 pages is because since in Yeshivas we learned Vaschanan this year, we learned Shpesich the Shabbos, And this Sikha, and Vaschana B'chelik Dalet, is mamash a Sikha in Sikha Shabbos, in the whole union of Akira B'Fanochen, Chotzi Shir, and Chotzi Maloche, all kinds of very Yisaidis in Shabbos. So that's why I picked just 2 pages of this. So this is like the first Agod. So you see, this is the first Agod. The Sikha went in like this. This was taken off from the Fabrengen, plus the Zettel that the Rebbe added, and wrote, and usually at least a lot. And the Rebbe fixed, you can see Poshla as Medayik in words. And this is the first 2 pages here, and this went on more. Then this page 3 and on, that's not from Veschanan, that's from Parsha Kiseitze. In Parsha Kiseitze, the Rebbe was Magia the second time much stronger than the first. You can see a few pages, this is not all. You see? Page 3, 4, 5. 5, all this the Rebbe wrote into the Sikha. Take this home and compare it to the Likha. Go open the Sefer and look. And you see, all that, all this the Rebbe wrote. And here all the Zaytik Gezach, all the things at the side. And now you have a finished product afterwards, and then you will see what the Rebbe said. So they used to give in, the Rebbe, and ask Shilas, and just like you have Shilas have this Fabrengen, there would be Shilas on this. Actually, this 2 days ago, I just happened to know this by me. One of the Fabrengen, one of the Kutim, actually from Pasha Pinchos, were Rebbe was Magia. When they gave it the second time to Magia.